Yo, what's going on YouTube? And in today's video, I'd actually like to talk about the past ban list and how it is we as a community actually do affect how the ban list goes. Now, I would like to talk back to today, back to when Whitebeard, Zoro, and Red Ring Law were dominating the format. If you were not playing during that time, then you don't know that that those three decks consistently ran the format from OPO1 all the way up to OPO3. Those were the leaders to play. In OPO3, towards the tail end of the format, going into OPO4, the Bondi representatives, whoever the heck, they had heard so much complaining of the West of the problem with Zoro, Law, and Whitebeard being the only decks that are able to top that Bondi wound up doing an emergency ban on all of these decks. They wound up banning Nami, they wound up banning Curly Dedan, they wound up banning Blackbeard. The only deck that really didn't hurt tremendously from that ban was Zoro. And Zoro was popping off at that time. And then, like a week or so later, after the American community was just like, what the hell was the point of this ban? The format is going to balance itself out. There was no need. There was such a large outcry of the community saying that that ban made no sense that Bondi like a week and a half, something like that, it wasn't very long to where Bondi had pretty much said, yo, we're going to take this decision back and we're going to give you guys all of these cards back because we didn't recognize that the format had changed and that these leaders were no longer as valuable as they were prior to OPO4. Now in OPO4, we got Sakazuki. Sakazuki dethroned the original big three. All right, Whitebeard was still able to float around and kind of sort of have some wins here and there, but generally speaking, it wasn't doing too well. Katakuri had also became a lot more powerful, so it was able to deal with Whitebeard a little bit more easier. Like I said, and Sakazuki, just being Sakazuki, managed to just topple the format. Purple Luffy was also a problem for Law. So the point in which I'm trying to make is that the community had an outcry, they had a problem, and they decided to solve it. Now Sakazuki becomes the top dog, and then Sakazuki runs the format. All right, Sakazuki had such an insane representation that when it happened, it was out representing Whitebeard, which at the time was one of the most represented decks. Now everybody was repping Sakazuki, and Sakazuki was insanely powerful because again, it was new and no one had any kind of way of dealing with that. Generically speaking, the Lucci was an answer to the Law and the Zoro players, so that they didn't have their weenies. But it turned out that that was an overpowered card because of its ability and because of the leader it was with being able to facilitate that ability so well. As time progresses, we get Red Purple Law. Red Purple Law now doesn't initially start off at great, but then snowballs into being a lot more powerful than what it actually was. And I want you to note that as Eastern players, while they were saying that, hey, this deck is extremely strong, something has to be done, Western players were screaming, hey, this deck is extremely strong. Prior to the deck being extremely strong, something has to be done about this. Now, keep in mind, Law was only topping and Law wasn't even topping during that time. Like during that time, Law had high representation, but it wasn't doing a lot of winning. The only reason that Law was winning because of the high representation, not because the deck was that good. Like, don't get me wrong, Law in OPO7 was a very solid deck. It was a good deck. But again, it was only able to consistently see tops. And they didn't see a whole lot of wins. It's seen a lot of tops, not a lot of wins. I want you to keep that in mind. It's seen a lot of tops, not a lot of wins in the Western OPO7 meta. Now we had the Eastern OPO meta, Eastern meta, where it was an insane deck. Like Law is an insane deck. In OPO8, it would have been top dog. It would have been insane. It would have been all these things, and then we would have had to eventually power creep our way out of there. We didn't do that. People complained so heavily in the West. I mean, you can go back right now and see Western videos calling for the ban of law. You can see so many videos calling for the ban of law. If you look them all up now, I promise you, there's a ton of them out there. When it came to Sakazuki, there wasn't as many calls for him to be banned because there were a lot of calls for something to be done to Sakazuki, and there were a lot of calls for Sakazuki's ban. I'm tripping. That's why Sakazuki got banned, because so much of the Western community was just like, bro, this leader is just too much. And then at the time, it was like the leader just did a lot. Like it was just very, very difficult to beat. You had to see all your pieces to beat it. It was just a very dominating deck. But like I say, moving forward though, when we got into new metas, the Law being such a top dog, you know what I'm saying? Then like I say, over in the West, we never got Law because there was an insane amount of complaining, and now we're at this point where Dofi needs to be banned. Dofi needs to be banned. But instead of making a lot of videos, like I promise you, you are not going to see nearly the amount of videos calling for the ban of Dofi as you did see videos calling for the ban of Law. Like right now, you see a lot of content creators calling for everything around the ban of Dofi, but not the actual ban of Dofi itself, which is where I personally have issue, because we as a community, I think, know that we have this power. I think that we as the Western community understand that this is something that we can do, and we're still misusing it, in my opinion. Now, I've mentioned how I don't really make this channel for like a lot of notoriety. Like I really make my content just because I like making content. I like speaking my opinion. Um, if you guys rock with my opinion, that's cool to me. I really do enjoy that. That's awesome. I like conversating with like-minded people. I even like conversating with not like-minded people because it helps expand my understanding of shit. With that being said, I make my content, like I say, mostly for me and for anybody willing to listen and for anybody who wants to think a little bit outside the box, because I don't play meta. I play off meta a lot, and I try and win with off meta because it's always cool to try and be the guy who wins with off meta. Like I always find that that's the real flex. Like I could play any meta leader and top with any meta leader. That wouldn't necessarily be the problem. But topping with a rogue deck, like that's awesome. Like that's my like fucking bread and butter right there. That's what I want to do. That's what I want, like notoriety and try and get some representation for the underdog. Because like there in One Piece, it's very interesting because you can't have these different non-meta leaders that can effectively do something in this new meta. And if you're just lucky enough, or you just see your cards, or you just see the right matchups, you can make it. You know what I'm saying? We've seen it time and time again. Some underdog gets in with some rando ass deck because they dodged whatever matchup they want to dodge, or whatever the case may be. I try and make my deck so I don't have to dodge anything, but I can play mostly into everything. But with One Piece, some decks inherently have a disadvantage against other decks. So you can't make a deck universal, but you can tech it out to where you might not get your ass handed to you. But like I said, that's a little bit off of topic. But going back to topic, we as a community, we greatly affect the ban list. I think that we have a lot more say in how things progress than what we actually believe. And like I said, this is a power in which we can use effectively for the community. Or we could just say, hey, I want to profit off of this. I want this to happen, or this, that, the other. Like I say, there are a lot of things that need to happen for the health of the game. For those who are trying to line their pockets, I understand why you would want to line your pockets. I'm not mad about it. Kudos to you for trying to get your bread. But if we're talking about for just the actual state of the game, just the actual health of the game, then we need to have more. What's the big ass fucking word I'm looking for? I don't. We need to have more productive discussions. We need to have more talks about like the actual, what is the actual problem? What is the actual problem coming up? Because in Yu-Gi-Oh, if a deck is overpowered, they're gonna hit it. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna ban cards from it to make it so it's not relevant. But then in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have very type specific decks. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, you might have Infernoids, which is a type specific. So if you ban certain cards from Infernoid that only really work in Infernoid, then it's fine. Like it might be a generic card that's worked generically for a bunch of different decks, but in this one deck, it's overpowered, so they have to ban that card, which makes sense. One Piece is not like that. There isn't there like One Piece is like that, but in a much, much, much more different way. So when it comes to One Piece, we have leader locking. So one card may make one leader overpowered, but generally speaking, when it comes to One Piece, the cards that make a deck overpowered are generic to that color, not leader locked. I think that cards that are leader locked can be banned and probably should be banned because they only work in one deck, but they make that one deck overpowered as hell. Like if we weren't to ban Dofi and we were to ban the four cost law, that makes sense because that law is leader locked to one leader and it makes that one leader overpowered. That makes sense to me. Like, but to say ban like cards like again, I'm speaking on Dofi. If you say ban cards like Teach, it doesn't make sense to ban that because while that does make one leader overpowered, if you take out the leader, that card in and of itself is not overpowered. And that's the difference between Yu-Gi-Oh and One Piece. You can't take out a leader in Yu-Gi-Oh. You know what I mean? So it's not like you don't stop a deck that way. You just stop it by making it so you can't play that particular leader anymore. This does suck. I think that this is bad for game design. Because having to ban leaders and then errata leaders, so where they're not as powerful, and then re-errata them with like really garbage effects, making them essentially unplayable leaders. I don't think that's the play neither. I don't think they should have galvanized Sakazuki and Law the way that they did. I think they should have changed it, yes, but not to the extent that what they changed it to. Like they could have left Law the same, but said you can only play like let's just say Law was still Law, but you can only play Heart Pirates from your hand. Would Law be as powerful? No. Like one of the benefits of Law is the fact you can play any creature from your hand that's a cost 4 or less. If you limit that creature to just being Heart Pirates, though the deck does have Heart Pirates it can play, it wouldn't benefit as much off of playing those cards because then you have to make your deck tailored to playing these cards or having these cards in your deck, which means you have to run a certain set of cards, which means that the deck loses a certain sense of steam. Because like if I can't leader ability into a Reiju, that means that I don't get to just free yak yak. You know what I'm saying? If I can't leader ability into uh, uh, um, Kid Killer, that means at the end of the game, I can't just free swing at you for 7. You know what I'm saying? So changing the leader ability, not galvanizing the leader ability like they did, but changing it to where it's not as powerful is the play. So if they do ban Dofi, which they should, then they should change his effect to where it's not galvanized, but it's not as powerful. But with Dofi, there's no way of doing that. You have to galvanize that effect. There's no way of making a balanced Dofi. You know what I mean? You can't make a Dofi that just all of a sudden like, all right, now for 5 Dawn and rest 1, you can now, or if they were like, you have to put essentially the equivalent of Dawn to creature onto the leader because for the most part, leaders that are cheating out 4 cost usually require 3 Dawn to do it. So Dofi cheats out 4 costs for 3 Dawn because 2 on lead, 1 to rest to get the ability. Arlong, same thing. I think Arlong is 1 on lead, rest 2, or 2 on lead, rest 1, but that's 3 for 4. Gecko Moria is the same thing. It's 3 Dawn for 4. All of these leaders essentially do the same thing, but get them from like different areas. Like it's just a 3-4-4, 3-4-4. Like Arlong's from the hand, Dofi's from the top of the deck. Moria is from the trash. All those leaders essentially are the same leader from different areas. All right. Dofi is the like I promise you, Arlong is going to be the new Dofi. Like let's just make that very 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 clear. Once Arlong gets the right set of packaging, it's going to be the new Dofi. The reason why and Gecko Moria is still a good deck. It just doesn't see any representation. Gecko Moria beats the shit out of Dofi, but obviously has a problem with Teach. You know what I'm saying? Like it's little niche things like that make these leaders like good bad. It's like you can play Gakamori in a tournament and go pretty good into a tournament, but once you get to that Teach player, you're done. Like your entire deck is done. Everything you want to do, you no longer can do. So the deck just does not work. Um, but like I say, that's power creep. You know what I mean? That's just how the state of One Piece works. Well, but this has just been my rant on the state of the game, just everything like that. I really haven't had anything very specifically to say. I do want to say we are going to be doing a lot of ramping up. Change some things around. Like I say, I like to make my opinion more vocal. I like to say a lot more to you guys, the community, especially since some of you guys value my opinion and like to listen to what I have to say. So for those people, I'm going to be more consistent, not just to make sure that I'm keeping up with the community and keeping everybody informed, but also just because like I don't mind doing this. Like I'm finding myself enjoying. Like when I first was doing this, I didn't enjoy it as much. It wasn't something that I liked doing. It was just something that I did. But now that I see that my opinion has weight and I see that people value my opinion, I have zero issues with trying to be more consistent with making these videos. So to the people who have inspired me to keep going and who have uplifted me, I really thank you guys. Like honestly, you guys are in fact the shit. And if no one is telling you you're the shit, y'all the shit. Like it's actually been really really cool to have this sense of motivation to press forward, and I've really been enjoying it. And if you're the kind of person that isn't finding any motivation, if you're the kind of person that's just having a bit of a hard time, and you know what I'm saying, you just can't seem to find that je ne sais quoi to get you moving your ass, then hopefully you watch this video and you hear these words and it sparks something in you to make you want to change something in yourself and try and progress. You know what I'm saying? So like yeah, I'm here for the underdog. I'm here for all the people who don't get a voice. You know what I'm saying? So like again, I say thank you to everyone who's come this far. You guys are all awesome. If no one is telling you you're awesome, then I'm going to make sure that I'm putting that at the end of all my videos. You are amazing. You can do a bunch of wonderful shit. And I know that even if you're in a dark, bleak spot, you can't see this or it may be hard for you to recognize, but it's there. It is there. You can do it. You can do it. All right. You just need a motherfucking put some batteries in your back. All right. So I got some batteries. You know what I'm saying? We finna metaphorically put these up your ass, and I need you to get charged up. No diddler. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's the video. Thank you guys for coming by and enjoying whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? So, the deuces. I'm still bad with the outros. I don't even know where my little mouse thing is. Like, I'm using my mouse, but the mouse ain't mousing.